Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 16. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us here for this Monday show. Dave, going to get really busy, kind of quiet right now the last 2 days in terms of the Steelers, world of news, and all that fun stuff here. But cuts are just about 24 hours away. Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Steelers will have to make 18 roster cuts to go from 71, where they currently stand, down to the NFL-mandated roster of 53. So it's going to get pretty busy here very shortly.
Absolutely. It is kind of weird, however, the way the way the calendar is now, that yesterday, 2 weeks from yesterday, is the first Steelers game. Obviously, you'll have the Thursday night NFL game before that and all, but a weird kind of lull here overall. And I think even the team's off. I think the team practices a couple of days this week, and then I think they're off for several days on top of it. But obviously, we expect at least the beginning portion of this week to have a busy news wire here for sure. A lot of things to talk about.
And there's already a lot to talk about in terms of news that's already happened. Steelers, generally, they seem to wait on their cuts, but they got an early start, probably because they were playing on Friday night ahead of some of the weekend games here. But Steelers have already released 9 players in that cut down to their 53-man roster. No major surprises, no one that was really expected or was pushing hard for the 53, but the 9 players released here, I'll read them in order. Tight end Marcus Baugh, running back Tony Brooks-James, cornerback Shakir Brown, defensive tackle TJ Carter, cornerback Lafayette Pitts, offensive guard Malcolm Pridgeton, wide receivers Matthew Sexton and Anthony Johnson, and safety Lamont Wade. So Brown, probably the most notable name here, Shakir Brown, as being that, by us and by many others, a highly touted undrafted free agent who showed up occasionally, especially in the Hall of Fame game, but kind of faded out down the stretch, had a poor game in coverage versus Detroit. So that might be the biggest name here. Of course, Matthew Sexton had the fumble in the Carolina game. Lamont Wade, a local kid from Clareton, but again, no one that was really pushing hard to make the 53.
What did Chuck Noll used to say? The problem isn't cutting, it's stopping. It was weird to see them cut. Normally they wait until the last minute for with those things, so it was a little bit shocking, I guess, to see kind of at least the 9 cuts made the other day there. But now I think they have a couple of practices today and tomorrow actually before the actual deadline comes. So it'll be interesting to see if they allow those players to practice these next couple of days. You would think they would, at this point. I guess the only thing that you risk there now is, injury or whatnot, and, guys going to IR and split salaries and all like that. But I don't think, I think they only didn't Keith Butler basically let the cat out of the bag that there's really only one padded practice left between now and the start of the regular season there. So, probably not a lot of thudding going on out there these next couple of days anyway there. So, of the 9 that they parted ways with, I think you hit on it. Probably the most notable would have been Shakir Brown. It'll now be interesting, I think, to see of that list of 9 players, how many of those guys ultimately circle back maybe to the practice squad. I think there's a good chance 1 or 2 of them will at a minimum. And I mean, boy, did they get it wrong with Shakir Brown if he's not one of them, overall? I mean, this is a guy that, a lot of people consider to be kind of a steal, especially when it came to the undrafted side of things there. And, he was pretty much for the most part really, not great at all other than some special teams work, I think, during the preseason there. So, that it'll be interesting to see, I guess, how many of these guys maybe circle back in that 9.
I think Brown could certainly be one of those guys to come back to the practice squad. Same with, I think Sexton still could make it. Johnson on the practice squad, maybe Lamont Wade as well. Perhaps Tony Brooks-James, the running back, although that fumble against Carolina is going to ding him a little bit. But so that was the initial wave of cuts. Again, 18 more to make. Some are obvious names. Some are a lot less obvious names here. So it's going to get really interesting really soon.
And I guess that takes us to what? Do you want to cover the game next, or do you want to cover our 53-man roster prediction, or how do you want to do this?
Let's do a roster prediction because that's probably a better segue, and I think it's maybe more relevant than the preseason game. Because the rosters are going to be finalized in a sense tomorrow. Obviously, just because it's the initial 53. Often it doesn't stay that way. There's other moves that end up being made in the 24, 48 hours after the final or initial wave of cuts. And so that's always an important caveat to mention. But let's talk about our final roster predictions here. I think our rosters are pretty similar, but there are one or two differences, right, Dave?
Yeah, there is, and I look back, and boy, mine looks quite similar to the post-draft edition.
Oh, really?
I mean, obviously, you didn't have Schobert and Melvin Ingram, but I think even in that post-draft edition, I called for a free agent outside linebacker there. I think there's a couple other, obviously the long snapper, but it's fun, and I always provide links to go back to look at these older ones to see how close I actually came right out of the chute. And even knowing that, Kevin Colbert has a long history of kind of matriculating the roster, if you will, even post, mandatory minicamp time and all like that. But I think the three of us had the same three quarterbacks throughout the process, right? Roethlisberger, Rudolph, and Haskins. I wasn't shocked, and we'll talk about in a little bit, that Haskins didn't seemingly overtake Rudolph, and I don't think you are either there. But those are the three quarterbacks, so I don't think we have any differences there. I think I, for the most part, I think I kept the same four running backs throughout this process here, and I think you had Benny Snell off for a week or two and then put him back on. So I think we ended with the same four here heading into the final round of cuts. What I guess the biggest question I would have is what got Benny Snell put back on the roster?
The fact that he was healthy and available, and I thought had a decent performance, relatively speaking, against Carolina. Had a decent run in that pass pro that you had tweeted out that was a solid pass pro. And just the fact that Mike Tomlin likes him. I mean, he's always been a big Benny Snell fan, and just the fact that he's available and healthy and getting a lot of reps in that game ahead of Balaj, although Snell needed the reps more than Balaj did, is enough for me to say that Snell makes a team.
Boy, he went out of his way to call Snell varsity before the game, and look, there wasn't a lot of varsity performances in that game the other night. And if you broke down Snell's performance on a run-by-run basis, you're probably not going to find a lot. Obviously, as far as big gains go. But I thought it was just kind of the little things that Benny Snell did in his one and only preseason game there, and he needed to. I think it's obvious for that. You don't play in those other games. You better, when you do finally get the hat and all and get the start, you better do something there. And I thought he did. And, a lot of people, disagree with me on this. You probably still do as well, too. I think Benny Snell Jr. is still the best all-around running back between him and Kalen Balaj. Now, is it close? Yeah. Obviously, I think it is, but I still think if push come to shove, I would be more apt to keep Benny Snell Jr. over Kalen Balaj. But I think what I would do, and obviously no one cares what I would do because none of our roster predictions are what we would do. If it came down to keeping just three running backs, I don't think they should. I think they should keep four just because the attrition of the position. That sounds like a band name, attrition of the position. But I would keep four. And we'll see, obviously, if they differ there. They're obviously going to keep three. But I would keep Benny Snell over Kalen Balaj if push came to shove.
When you say Snell's a better overall running back, does that include special teams value or just as an actual offensive?
Just all the way around. Special teams, the whole kit and caboodle. Everything that gets you a helmet on game day.
As a pure running back or just offensive guy, do you think Snell's the better player than Kalen Balaj, the better actual running back?
I think he is, but it's close. I mean, it's razor thin.
What do you think Snell does better than Kalen Balaj? Where do you give him the edge?
I like the overall physicality, the ability to contact after or yardage after contact. Just a few of the little things there.
Yeah, I think it is close.
Pass protection. Similar. I think Benny Snell's a better pass protector than Kellen Balaj. I've thought that for a while. I remember going through Snell's college tape. to see, okay, does he have the willingness, and how is he? And I was impressed with Snell's, want to and ability on pass protection ever since he came out. And be quite honest with you, look, I mean, Najee had a nice represented himself well in a couple of pass protections during the preseason. But I think when you draw the line at the end of this preseason here, and obviously it's a small section here, for whatever it's worth, which isn't much, but Benny Snell had the longest run from scrimmage of all the running backs in the preseason, and you could argue that his pass protection was the best of all the running backs, throughout this thing. And I just think it was kind of a microcosm of what Benny Snell is, and I also like the fact that he had to have that kind of performance in this game, and he delivered.
Right. Yeah, I think it's close. If I had to keep only 3, and I'm keeping 4, so I'm keeping Harris, McFarland, Snell, and Ballage, and so are you. I think they would keep Snell over Ballage, but personally, I would take Ballage over Snell.
Okay, what do you think they see in Snell? Obviously, I'm on the Snell over Ballage train, but what do you see in Snell that would make you personally keep Snell over Ballage? Because this is a running back you just had off your roster here, a week ago.
Right. It just goes back to Mike Tomlin being a big Benny Snell fan, and that's kind of what was driving the decision for Snell over Ballage. But it was the one I was wrestling with the most if I was going to keep just 3 running backs.
Okay.
At fullback, both keeping Derek Watt.
Should they keep 4?
I'm okay with it. I mean, I'm okay with them keeping 3 as well. I mean, usually they've kept 3 in the past, especially when they've had a Le'Veon Bell type of a bell cow type of runner. I just didn't feel like there was someone else to put that 4th running back over top of a 10th offensive lineman. Maybe I think that was maybe something you would consider, but nothing else right now. I will say this: if they bring in another DB or another free safety slot corner type, maybe you don't keep 3 running backs. Maybe they keep 4 initially and then cut down to 3. I think that's on the table.
Did Anthony McFarland show you enough during the preseason and during camp to give you great comfort?
No, I wouldn't say great comfort. Enough to make the team. But, I mean, I think you still need to learn a lot more about McFarland. It was just tough with the eval on McFarland because you're trying to find something to compare it to. And there really isn't a whole lot of recent stuff that we've seen to compare it to.
The other interesting thing that kind of slightly maybe plays into this is what's Anthony McFarland dealing with that got him left back in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
for the finale.
That's true. That's a good point. So Zach Banner got left at home too, and I don't know how serious that is.
There may be others. We got lucky that Mike Tomlin named a few names there, So, but that kind of got me scratching. Normally, you want those young guys at the game, at least taking the mental reps, right? So There was something that kept Anthony McFarland treatment-wise back in Pittsburgh. Now, you still have obviously 2 weeks to go. There's plenty of time for something minor, but it still made you kind of scratch your head a little bit there.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We shouldn't be 100% confident in McFarland's status for one reason or another, but I think he'll make it. And it is a different style of runner with all those other big backs in the backfield. Not that there's a benefit there, I think.
All right, Derek Watt, he and his one snap the other night, offensive snap against the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to go out.
Did he really only have one snap?
Yeah, it was the interception.
The interception, yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Derek Watt makes it.
I'm with you, Dave, out there on a limb. Receiver, I think our 5 are the same as well, with Juju, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Ray Mcleod. You had Ray on your roster, right? Yeah, you did. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever pulled him off of there, but all throughout, look, I don't know what's going to happen through. I obviously think he's going to make the 53 now, but if they I'm not married to him past week 1, I'll tell you that. This is a guy that look, he even as a receiver the other night, didn't use his head, dropped one pass. I had to be interested in look at the all 22 of that and see if that defender got a hand on that ball or not. But and then the other one over to the side there, it might not look like much, but I bet Haskins thinks that thinks it's a big deal. The completed pass over there on the left side, you got to know where you are in bounds. And right. You know, if you kind of hands catch that instead of letting that thing in your body, maybe you do get 2 feet down there. But that should have been a completion. And I'm less apt to blame it on the quarterback in that situation there. So it's little things like that, and it's little things like going back to how he was used offensively last year and average depth of target. I don't think Ray McLeod gives you much. Eli Rogers was better in the slot than Ray McLeod. All right, and it's not even close there. So the fact that this guy gives you, and you know, I'm not, you know me, I'm never going to discount special teams, and he certainly made an impact on kickoff and punt returns. But if at any point he puts one on the ground or something like that, you know, you kind of wonder if he might have a meeting with the two Bobs.
Sure, yeah. If there's those struggles, then I think, you know, his roster spot could be lost. But I just view him not even as a receiver, just as a special teamer, the same way that I didn't penalize Arnez Battle for not being much of a receiver. I mean, McLeod is what the
Arnez Battle was a hell of a special teams player.
He was a very good special teamer, yeah. But I mean, McLeod is what, like the 8th option on this team as a receiver, behind the 4 receivers ahead of him, behind Ebron, behind Freiermuth, behind Najee Harris. So I'm not too worried about McLeod as a receiver, because if I'm counting on him to do much in the passing game, then there's bigger problems. So I think his role of responsibility is here to be a kick and punt returner, to do both. Not every guy in return world can do both and do both at a decent level. McLeod can, and so that's really the only reason why I'm keeping him, is for that special teams value.
Okay, and we'll see if he can deliver on that. You know, they gave Matthew Sexton every opportunity, or at least I don't think they gave it to him in the kick return. What, Tony Brooks-James that was back there?
Yeah, for some reason.
So that was hit number one, that maybe things weren't, maybe Cheddar Bob had a bigger fan club than what he maybe deserved. You can't put him back there to return kickoffs there, and then. I mean, just I mean, he was out of it that first muff. I mean, that was, thanks for playing. But who else would you keep over a guy like Ray McLeod? I mean, none of these guys. I don't think Cody White. I don't think he's a returner. And I mean, so you're unless you find something on the waiver wire, or you want Deontay Johnson back there doing that kind of stuff. I don't see how you get away from Ray McLeod. Now, once the season gets underway, things happen. Then, you know, they could possibly go the other way. But right. Ray was the obvious kind of default choice, if you will.
Hypothetically, if McLeod wasn't the return guy for whatever reason, and it wasn't Sexton, then I suppose Deontay Johnson would do punts and Anthony McFarland would do kicks. If he made me answer about who were like the backup return men, it's McFarland on kicks and Johnson on punts.
Yeah, then we get into living in our fears.
The old AB thing. All right, at tight end, I think we're keeping the same 3 as well, with Eric Ebron, Pat Freiermuth, and Zach Gentry. I actually made Gentry a week 1 inactive and my projected inactive, so that's, I think, a small difference there that we may have. But beyond that, the same 3.
And I'm not from what I have seen still, if it was my decision, I think I'd still be more apt to keep Kevin Rader over Zach Gentry. So I am not very confident about how that third tight end spot will go, but the fact that Gentry, it seems like they're trying to make Gentry be that guy. You know, now Kevin Rader obviously is not dynamic. He has his upside has been what his upside is. The thing with Gentry is at least we saw growth in the blocking area with him, and then that obviously increases his upside on top of it there. So maybe they just like the little bit more maybe that Zach Gentry gives you. But if we get into any situation here where Zach Gentry has to play a lot of snaps on the offensive side of football in 2021, we're probably talking about other things on top of it there too. So I don't know which way this is going to go here. I have a lot. I'm not very certain about that third tight end spot, but I did put Zach Gentry in my final one.
Me as well. Offensive line gets interesting here. I think the tackles are a little less so than the interior offensive lineman. Tackles here: Chukwuma Okorafor, Zach Banner, Joe Haig, Dan Moore. Again, a question of who would get the hat, Haig or Moore. I went Moore over Haig, but it's really just a question of Moore's comfort at right tackle. And clearly versus Carolina, he did not look super comfortable on the right side.
Boy, what do you think when you look at these 9? Did you have 9 or 10?
9.
Okay, I had 9. Do we have the same 9 or did we differ?
I believe so. Neither of us have Coward.
Okay. Finney once again, I think, got the start, got the nod over Coward. That's 2 games in a row, right?
Did Finney start? Yeah, he started at right guard over Coward, right?
All right. So I don't
Although
know.
To be fair, Coward's played more left guard than right guard.
Okay.
Whatever that's worth.
Coward just never. Coward just never showed up to me pretty much on tape outside of maybe that first preseason game, I think. What do you think when you look at that list of 9, though?
Yeah, a lot of question marks, more questions than answers. There's still the thought that's in my head, and there's some of that just youthfulness and just the newness of the group. But there's still concern there. I worry about a core for. Is he going to be the actual 17-game starter left tackle this year? I don't think it's anything close to a guarantee. That's the subject of my terrible take today. How'd you think Finney did this offseason as an actual just his performance?
But I thought he outplayed Coward.
Right, I thought so too. Yeah, I cut Coward, but I really wrestled with this one, Dave, because I think they like Coward. I know they like Coward, and I think there is some potential and upside. And if you develop him some more, I think maybe you have something there. But he's not NFL ready, and so that was a tough decision of cutting Coward. I think they could keep him, and it would not surprise me one bit.
I still think there's the opportunity that might be an opportunity out there for maybe either a true vet center or a guard that can play center. Here in the next week, I would hope they would go that way. They sure seem to be shoehorning J.C. Hassenauer into that backup center spot, and although I think there was a little bit of improvement with him throughout the preseason, I would hate for this team to get in a situation where J.C. Hassenauer is having to start games at center again.
All right. I know you hadn't looked at it a week or two ago, but any names in terms of potential cuts?
No,
because it's hard to find those good offensive linemen.
It is.
Love to cover them.
It is, and you don't know which team might have to try to do a roundabout because of an IR player. You drive yourself mad trying to build a list of 15 players here that might be on the bubble or whatnot. So I would just leave it kind of the way I've left it for several weeks now. If there's a vet center or vet guard out there or a vet center that plays, vice versa, this team should really look into it, and especially if it's minimum salary or right there at it there, because it just that they need an upgrade there, I think.
Now, hypothetically, let's say they find that guy. Does he just become the 10th offensive lineman, or does a Hassenauer or a Finney get cut to replace that new offensive lineman?
I guess it depends on. I think you cut Hassenauer or Finney. I think it just whatever the primary position of that player is. If that primary position is a center, then I cut Hassenauer. If his primary position is a swing guard but can play center, then I think I'd let Finney go.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Definitely watch the waiver wire whenever cuts start getting made, and they're already happening as we're talking right now. So we'll see if a name pops up. Flipping over to the defense here with defensive line, and I believe you, me, and Matthew are all on the 7 defensive lineman train, and I really didn't think there was a scenario in which case that was going to happen a month ago because it is so rare for this team to do, but I think it just warranted from the talent of this group. D-line depth here has been better than any other position, and then the unknownness, let's say, of the Stephon Tuitt situation, and even if Tuitt plays against the Bills week 1, he's not going to be at a 60-plus snap, regular snap count the way that Cam Hayward is. He's just missed way too much time. So I think for those 2 reasons, I'm keeping 7 defensive linemen, which includes Loudermilk, Buggs, and Carlos Davis as my final 3.
I only stuck with 6.
You only stuck with 6?
Yeah, I only have 6, and I had the same 6 there. It will be interesting to see how if there's an argument to be made of them going over their normal 6. This year would definitely be it, and I think it's mostly related to a guy like Tuitt there. Buggs, and there were a couple players on the defensive side of the ball that I would say kind of surprised me with their play during the preseason portion. Obviously, I didn't see the practices to get impressed by, but I would say Buggs and Melvin Ingram were the two guys that surprised me. And people saying, Ingram, how the hell is Ingram on that? Well, it's not that I thought Ingram was going to be bad. It's just that I didn't realize Ingram was going to be, just so damn good. I mean, he's monster-like, So those were two guys that I felt that from where my preseason expectations were, outperformed. But even so, I still think the tape and just all around and all, I have Carlos Davis as the slightly better keep than Isaiah Buggs. Look, Henry Mondeau, I don't think you can really discount maybe what the team might like when it comes to him being able to do things other than play on defensive line. Now, having Carlos Davis out there with him is kind of redundant there. You're not going to have two big guys like that running down kickoffs, at least I wouldn't think, or playing on the kick return team or something like that. But if they do end up keeping 7, yes, I agree. I think it could be both Buggs and Davis along with Loudermilk there. So I went with the 6 there. I still think because of the way the elevations go and because we have a couple of weeks left still for maybe something to happen with Tuitt, I think you could still find a way, even if Buggs got traded or signed by another team or whatnot, you still have a guy in Henry Mondeau, I think, that could be elevated to help you through that there. So the elevation factor played a big part in me keeping 6, I think.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I just think Buggs has played really well throughout this whole process and one of the few bright spots against Carolina starters on Friday. And so I think that was a good way for him to end the season.
All right.
Let's see, flipping over to linebacker, going with the outside linebackers. And I think we're both making the switch here. I don't know if you did before or not, but we're the same now with T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Melvin Ingram, and Jameer Jones. Welcome to the 53, Mr. Jameer Jones.
Yeah, I've been looking for a reason to, mostly special teams related, for Jameer Jones to overtake a guy like Cassius Marsh, and I think in totality we got it. I think Jameer Jones once again was one of the few bright spots the Steelers had in their preseason finale. Showed up on, you had to know that guy ahead of that game was being told you better show up on special teams. And really throughout this process, Keith Butler, and we just know that to be fact. And it was kind of a stiff hill, a steep hill for him to climb, but I think he climbed it. And I think just overall totality, not only just special teams, but pass rusher and stuff. Now, look, he's got to improve against the run and learn certain aspects, I think, of still playing on his feet still. But I don't think you lose much of anything by keeping Jameer Jones over Cassius Marsh, especially on the special team side. And look, if we get into a situation where a guy like Jameer Jones or Cassius Marsh is having to play a high amount of snaps, now obviously they had a guy like Ola, we've seen it in the past, but I mean, if we're talking, more than 100 snaps on a season that your fourth outside linebacker is having to play, once again, we're probably talking about other things on top of it there. So I think throughout this process, and we've kind of been warning people, look, if there's one of these guys between like Jameer Jones and Quincy Roche that's most likely to crack this thing, it's been Jameer Jones. And I think he finally cracked it.
I think so too. I think he's done. If he doesn't make the 53, then I don't know what more he could have done to put himself in position to make the team. I went back and through ESPN's box score, tabulated all the special teams tackles of all the Steelers here through their four preseason games, and Jameer Jones led the team with 6. No one else had more than 3. And that was just one guy. That was Buddy Johnson. So Jameer Jones, 6 tackles, 3.5 special teams tackles in that finale against Carolina. I think to me that puts him over the top.
And I think even the NFL has given him more credit than that, to be honest with you. In fact, Jameer Jones led the entire NFL in special teams tackles throughout the preseason. Now, obviously, they had the one more game, yada, yada, but they have him down as 4 total tackles and 4 assists.
Well, I think they're still getting the 6 total because the 4 assists would be a half, so that's 2 assists. You know what I'm saying? And then 4 plus 2 is 6. I think that's how they're calculating it.
Okay. Well, regardless, he's still up top there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still the leader, and so the leader for the NFL and leader for the team. And again, his pass rush, his run defense, his overall camp performance, his availability, all that was impressive as well. So it's not just special teams work; it's what he's done overall, and to me, it's enough.
He's credited with 9 quarterback hits throughout the preseason, wow. 2.5 sacks, 9 combined tackles, 3 tackles for loss. I mean, once again, we don't want to hopefully get in a situation where he's having to play a lot of defensive plays, but the fact too, and I think it's very important, and it's why we chart this kind of stuff, is they gave him an opportunity to play on both sides of the line too, and show that kind of stuff there throughout the process. So, I mean, if at this point, if Cassius Marsh makes the 53-man roster, it's all on Danny Smith. That's exactly who you point the finger at now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. It's still a battle. I still think it could go. Do you think Roche has any chance to make the 53, or do you think it's just down to Jones versus Marsh?
I find it hard to carve out a spot for him. And once again, throughout this process, let's make it clear that Alex and I don't hate Quincy Roche. It's just he just needs some time to develop a little bit more. And I really, really think, going back to what Keith Butler said several weeks ago about, Roche needs to just learn to play on his feet more. And at that point alone, you got the feeling that Jameer Jones was ahead of Roche on, as far as outside linebacker depth chart goes. And then at that point, you knew that Roche really had to ball out on special teams to, in my opinion, to make this 53. He wasn't bad on special teams. I think just Jameer Jones was better, there. And I know a lot of people saying there's no way Roche will make it to the practice squad. I think he will. You probably think he will as well. Mm-hmm. But it's not impossible, I guess, that Roche makes it, but it's so. You only have 53, man, and right. I find it hard how to shoehorn him in there.
I'm with you, Dave. All right, inside linebacker, I think we have the same 5 as well. Devin Bush, Joe Schobert, Robert Spillane, Buddy Johnson, Marcus Allen. Only question in my head is just the Allen hamstring injury. Those can linger a bit. Again, you do have 2 weeks until week 1, September 12th versus Buffalo, but that's the only question mark in my head right now.
Yeah, the only other question mark would be why do they put these guys in coverage, and hopefully they won't. But Marcus Allen, I thought, was having a nice preseason. The Ford was running well until it came out of the third turn there and blew a tire there. But I thought overall Marcus Allen represented himself well during the preseason, and hopefully that hamstring injury is something that'll get better within the next couple of weeks. If not, if it's long term, then I don't know. Maybe that's where you create some sort of roundabout or whatnot. But even so, Marcus Allen would have to be on the initial 53 to get him to IR for 3 weeks or what have you on there. So, that's another reason why you're keeping Marcus Allen on the 53.
Right. Yeah, it was a weird injury. I guess hamstring injuries can be a little weird and just, flare up at any point, but it was a play on that right side, and he just turned around basically, and you could see him immediately grab for his hamstring.
Someone shot him, didn't he?
Yeah, and so he obviously did not play the rest of the game, and so we'll see what his week 1 status is. Yeah, it's good clarification. It's less of a roster question that linebackers on receivers is more of an existential question that I have in my head, and it's going to keep happening. People were yelling at me for pointing out in the Lions game saying it's preseason, but there's no evidence it's going to change based on the last 4 or 5 years of this defense.
Look, they have got a lot invested right now once again, and look, money and drafting and all like that. A lot of teams face this at certain positions around the NFL, but boy, they've got a lot of eggs in the basket here with Schobert and Devin Bush, right? And look, Buddy Johnson, you hope he's going to come along okay. There's no reason to think that he won't, maybe develop, but is Buddy Johnson ever going to be kind of the coverage guy that even a Joe Schobert has been throughout his career? I think that's asking a lot, right?
It is. I think it's potential. I thought Johnson was decent in coverage coming out of A&M, but I'm not even focused on that big stuff right now.
Right. I mean, so they got to keep Schobert or Bush healthy and playing at max potential here inside. If they don't, I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, if they're not healthy, who's going to cover Cole Beasley in week 1?
There you go.
You could have your lockdown corner on Beasley.
Ulysses Gilbert III, one of the most disappointing guys throughout this whole process here. This is a guy that we said, man, if he could only stay healthy, he's got it. Well, he stayed healthy and he don't got it.
Yeah, very disappointing. I think you have him on your practice squad. I cut him entirely. I think you just turn the page and move on.
You're cold, aren't you?
Breaks my heart.
Oh, you just turned your back on your guy, didn't you?
Yeah.
I understand. He had several moments where he could have risen to the occasion and just, you can't tackle guys up. Look, even Robert Spillane on one of those rushing touchdowns, I think, just against Carolina. Was it Carolina or maybe it was Detroit? I forget. There was so much bad Robert Spillane.
I think it was Detroit, the goal line one.
Right.
Detroit.
I mean, okay, I get it. Cassius Marsh was held, but you got to keep that guy on the short grass, and leave yourself some grass to defend there. And just Robert Spillane in so many instances, not just coverage, shrunk, during the preseason there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, been a tougher camp for Robert Spillane.
This is a guy that was going to be on track to start,
Yeah, he was. Quarterback here, I think we do have one difference. That's one of the few differences here on our roster. My 5 corners are Joe Hayden, Cam Sutton, James Pierre, Arthur Millette, and Justin Lane. You're keeping those 5, and you're also keeping undrafted rookie corner Mark Gilbert. I was surprised by that. Why Gilbert is at 6th corner?
I got to keep one undrafted rookie free agent.
Fair.
I started doing the math, but. And looking at history, which is something you obviously shouldn't do, but I thought maybe there's a potential. Look, I think we both will be surprised if this team doesn't have a new defensive back here in a few days of some sort. Now, whether or not that's after the 53 is initially set, who knows there. I'm not married to Mark Gilbert, but, Shakir Brown surely didn't live up to expectations there. I thought Gilbert did show some nice things on special teams, especially as, maybe jammer and gunner, and he's a big kid. He better, he ended up being a little bit better of a overall aggressive, at least coming up and trying to help, tackle in situations than what I remember his tape showing. So this is one of those I needed to find myself a rookie undrafted free agent to throw in there, and this team's short one cornerback, so that's how I ended up there.
Yeah, I get that. And Gilbert's an interesting guy. And he was healthy, which is something he didn't have his last 3 years at Duke. So that was really encouraging to see. I think there's definitely some talent, a long lean corner worth keeping around. I just don't think the play start to finish has really warranted that spot. But I'm with you. I think there will be a new DB added, and who that is anyone's guess. But I think that's something that will be one of those ads that will shake up the rest of this roster here that you just really can't account for.
Right. I think we both can go on record in saying that we don't have the exact 53 here, right?
Right. Yeah.
That both of us are going to be wrong here, and that'll bring great joy to people listening. But all right, safety.
Yeah, safety the same here with the 4, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Terrell Edmonds, Miles Killebrew, and Trey Norwood. I really think even if they bring in another safety, they're not going to cut Trey Norwood. They'll cut somebody else or make some other alteration to make it work because they're really high on Norwood. Now, again, I don't think he's day one ready. I think he's definitely got a lot of developing to do, but they do not want to, have any sort of risk losing that guy.
I would agree, and I you would hope, though, that whoever you get's more of a free safety type that maybe you can play in the slot.
Sure.
Then that would make Trey Norwood an easy game day inactive, I think, for the first half of the season here on top of it there. So, yeah, they really seem to like him. I think it was just more of an experimental this past weekend to see how it goes with him in a slot. And, he didn't really stand out overall. Of course, a lot of people didn't in that game. But I think he's done enough to at least warrant them keeping around on the 53. Now, might he be a guy that you maybe shuffle, if you need a spot as the season goes on? Possibly there, but I do think he makes it. But this team desperately needs, I think, another free safety type and maybe one that can play in the slot for you as well.
And they really want a physical blitzing slot guy. Like, they're all about that. My favorite part of Norwood's performance against Carolina was his first 2 snaps at nickel and 3 of his first 4 against the pass. He blitzed. He's just like, start blitzing, Trey. Let's see what you can do. Don't worry about coverage. Let's just start getting after the quarterback. And so they really want that guy. They would just want Mike Hilton 2.0. And Norwood obviously is not that guy, but they really want to find someone who has that similar skill set.
All right. Specialist.
Norwood reminds me a ton of Cam Sutton. Like,
does he?
Especially where Cam Sutton was rookie year. Like, smart, versatile guy. Physicality, tackling needs work, but like very, very similar kind of guys.
I get and have heard obviously the team make the comparison. Keith Butler, comparing them. I don't know if I've seen that show up in the tape yet. But.
I'm talking about Cam Sutton, like where he was at as a rookie. Right now, where Cam Sutton's at today versus Norwood, no, because Sutton's improved, by leaps and bounds. Obviously, he's got the experience. He's become a better tackler. But like where Sutton was at year 1, year 2, I think is where Norwood's at right now.
Okay. Specialist.
Yeah, this was hard. I mean, you never had to debate so many specialists before. Kicker, obviously, a layup with Boz, but punter and long snapper were the same. But, I mean, this thing could be flipped any which way. We're both keeping Harvin as the punter and Christian Kuntz as the long snapper. But you could tell me it's Barry and Kennedy. It's Barry and Kuntz. I mean, Kennedy and Harvin. This thing, I don't know how it's going to end up.
The fact that Kuntz still stays around, even 9 – they've cut 9 guys, at this point here, and he's still on the roster there. And, the thing with Kennedy is evidently an illness prevented him from snapping the other night. Is Kevin Colbert going to pull off the impossible and trade a long snapper for a 7th round pick? I suppose it's possible.
Green Bay, man. Green Bay needs a long snapper.
All right. Maybe there's something there. You would really have to take your hat off and hand it to him if you're trading long snappers and getting draft picks for them. Mm-hmm. But this is the same general manager that drafted a long snapper in the 6th round or whatnot, and ended up flushing them down the toilet. So, it feels like Kuntz is going to win this. That's all I got.
It's hard for me to have that gut instinct on that.
That's my analysis on a long snapper. It feels like it just has felt like it,
Maybe I'm overstating this thought some because it does come down to just the best guys are the best guys. But Kuntz and Harvin have worked a ton together in terms of that snapper-holder relationship. So I think if you're going to keep Harvin, or if you're going to keep I don't know, maybe this doesn't make sense, but you're going to keep Harvin, then you want to keep Kuntz because he's been a long snapper that's worked with Harvin the most. But maybe that's just poor thinking because you do want to just keep the best guys.
So in other words, you would be surprised if it's like Kennedy and Harvin that's kept. Because
that's kind of what I'm thinking, yeah. But also, like, maybe that's just a stupid thought by me because you're going to keep the best guys, and they have all worked together at some point. It's not like they've never snapped and held with each other before. So I don't know, but that's kind of where my thought was, I guess. And then Kuntz did play well in the finale and had a tackle and a half, and that's a good finish for him.
Here's the thing. Just can you trade one of or both of the losers here? I think that's one of the most interesting aspect here. Of this, whichever guy lost at either position, can you turn either of them into a draft pick? Is it that close?
Right.
I don't think we'll be surprised either way it turns out. It just has kind of felt like Harvin and Kuntz the last 2 weeks for me. And I never would have imagined we would have sit here going into the final preseason game saying, "Oh, look at that! How about that? A long snapper." But it's not something that you really track a lot anyway there. But they sure seemed to like Kuntz and for some reason,
Yeah. Oh, someone got mad that we talked about long snappers for too much the other day, so they're gonna be mad about this as well. But it's an important battle, and I will say with the punter battle itself, just focusing in on that, I put up a poll yesterday on Twitter about who do you think will be the Steelers Week 1 punter, Harvin or Barry. 91% Harvin, 9% Barry. I think it's close. I think fans are going to be fans aren't realizing how close this battle is and how much it could go either way. Now, again, I'm choosing Harvin, but I think it's like 60% chance Harvin makes it, 40% chance Barry makes it. Like, I know everyone is anti-Barry and they want to see Harvin for the jokes and the memes and all that fun stuff, but it is a close battle, Dave.
All right. We'll see how that turns out there. All right, practice squad.
Yeah, practice squad 16.
Where'd your boy Anthony Johnson go?
He's on there.
No, he's not on the roster right now, is he?
Oh, and on the 53? No, he's on my practice squad.
I mean, I'm trying to remember. Was he one of the cuts the other day or no?
Yeah, he was. He was one of the guys. I mean, Cody White's getting cut here by Tuesday,
sure.
So he'll be joining Johnson. But I think both can circle back to the practice squad. I also have Matthew Sexton.
Do you read anything into the timing of these of a lot of these cuts? In other words, are we going to turn around and a lot of these 9 guys that are cut are back on the practice squad?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know why did they release 9 yesterday? How do they choose the 9? I don't know.
It doesn't make sense, but yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, is that just so they clear waivers quicker so they can get signed back on Wednesday? I don't know. Yeah, but you can do that on Tuesday, so I don't know. But yeah, practice squad. Yeah, Johnson, Sexton, White, keeping Roche on the practice squad. Henry Mondeau there, Shakir Brown. Who do you think is like the best odds to make the practice squad? Someone who's not going to make the 53, but someone that's like going to make the practice squad.
Mondeau, I think, is odds on. Pretty good bet.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the loser of the tight end battle between Gentry and Rader, in this case Rader for me. I think Donovan Steiner is going to make the practice squad. Like, I think he's a quiet sleeper-ish kind of guy with some good size and tackling.
I have Steiner on mine. My list went Chaz Green, Cody White, Kevin Rader, Matthew Sexton, Jalen Samuels. I don't know if Samuels will land there, but I damn sure couldn't put Tony Brooks-James. That fumble got him. What do you have? 1 carry and did he even play? Did he even play another snap after that?
Probably not.
Offensive snap?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, you can't do that in a preseason finale for sure. I don't even know if Jalen Samuels would accept, a practice squad spot, but it's just hard to imagine Jalen Samuels having much value to any other team to make their 53 because he's just a very marginal special teams player on top of it. So we could see if there was a position that this team has on the practice squad that never spent any time on the roster this summer, that could be the position, right? We could see a running back from another team land on this practice squad.
Yeah, or an inside linebacker, I think, because what other options do you have? So, yeah, there'll be some of that shuffling that's really hard to predict, but I think that's certainly possible. Quarterback, if they want to go find a 4th quarterback. Again, I would love to have Josh Dobbs on my practice squad, but I don't think Josh Dobbs is as excited about the idea as I am, so I think he goes elsewhere.
Yeah, I put him on my practice squad as well. Now, is he a guy because of that turf toe that maybe you send to IR for a little while and then make a decision later? Or
Josh Dobbs is really going to hate this organization if they do that. It's just like, let me go, man. Cut me, Mick. Let me go somewhere.
Let's see. I have Roche. I also kept Jeremy Watson just because I was running out of guys that that are still on the roster.
Did you put Marsh in your practice squad?
No.
Really? Any reason for that?
I just it might be time to get on with his Pokemon work.
His Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, is that what he plays? Magic?
I think he does both. I don't know.
I used to. You never played Dungeons and Dragons growing up or anything, did you?
No, as big of a nerd as I am, you think that'd be in my wheelhouse, but I never did.
What about Pokemon or Magic?
Oh, yeah, I was Pokemon. I never did Magic the Gathering. I did Pokemon though. Okay. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that stuff.
Okay. Do you still? I never have played that. That was beyond my.
Apparently, these cards are worth a lot. I actually went through my old card collection to see if I had anything worth anything because the market got really, really hot. But I don't really have anything. 1 or 2 things that are, I guess, decent. But that's it.
I wonder how they do versus the baseball card market at this point.
Yeah, it got really, really hot. I think maybe it's cooled off, but obviously I don't follow that stuff too closely. But if you have old, you probably have some money there in baseball cards.
Oh yeah, I've got a huge collection. Yeah. I got nobody. Anyway. I got to leave it to you. I got nobody else to leave it to. So.
All right, I'm gonna get that. Darryl Strawberry.
Oh
rookie
boy,
card or whatever it's, I don't know.
you got a nice little collection in there too. My wife would be glad to get rid of them too.
All right, Dave. So those are our roster predictions. Where do you think you could be wrong? Talking about how neither of us, shockingly, probably won't be 53 for 53. What do you think here? Putting aside outside free agents that are, could get brought in, what do you think in-house guys that could have you wrong?
I mean, obviously running backs, whether or not they keep 3 or 4, I think that's a place to be wrong there. I'm not, that third tight end spot I have questions about. I suppose you could get into an argument about Coward versus Finney.
Mm-hmm.
The 6 versus 7 defensive lineman, I don't think it's a question of the who. I think it's just, is it 6 or is it 7? I'm less about the Jameer Jones versus Marsh argument now, but I suppose if there was we'll see what Danny Smith thinks. And then obviously, I think the most obvious and glaring would be Mark Gilbert on my 53-man roster would be the easy one to think that someone would bet against.
Yeah, I think Coward could be the one that trips me up. The specialists, obviously, I think it's really, really, really close. And then, how that affects maybe the running back position if you keep 10 offensive linemen, something like that. And there's always a surprise. Usually this thing isn't as chalk as we think it is. So, we'll see.
As far as matching the total number of rights in the initial 53 once it's set, I think once the 53 is set, is going to look different than the one that they take to Buffalo in a couple weeks there. But I like my chances of hitting at least 50 of the 53 here.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll find out pretty soon.
That's a good marker there. But all right, I suppose the question is one of the better question is who did both of us leave off of our 53 that has the best chance of being on the 53? So if there's one guy that neither of us have on the 53 that has the best chance of ending up on the 53, who would that be?
Does this include specialists? Can we take
them
out
yeah.
first? This does include specialists. Yeah. Ah, man.
Would it be Barry or would it be Canada if you're going specialist? And what if people don't like us talking about specialists, so let's rule out specialists.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, because obviously I think those things could really go either way. In terms of the guys that are offense, defense, I'll say Rashad Coward followed by Cassius Marsh because there's still a chance Marsh could get the hat over Jameer Jones.
I would go Marsh and then Coward.
Okay. Yeah, so we're very similar there. Well, not even bugs for you. You wouldn't even have bugs in that mix.
Well, both of us. It would have to be both.
Oh, both of us. You said both of us.
Both of us leave it off.
Right. Yeah. That's the order I would go. But it just a Coward again is just not ready. He could be on the roster, but he cannot be active. He cannot be one snap away from playing against Buffalo because Sean McDermott and company is going to eat that guy alive.
All right, Friday night. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. Let's talk about the game.
Yeah, let's not. I prefer not to. It was just ugly. And I want to see some of the All-22 stuff. We haven't gotten access to that yet. So, I wanted to be careful of formulating too many thoughts. But it was just bad across the board. It didn't get a whole lot better, going back and watching that thing.
No,
Haskins played. And again, I know that Haskins was going against starters and he had some backups in, but some of the throws that are late and accurate, stuff like that, has nothing to do with who he's playing with or who he's playing against. And so Haskins needed a really impressive game to push Rudolph. Obviously, that did not happen. And so that was a sour end to a decent game for Dwayne Haskins.
It's been fun to watch the Rudolph versus Haskins people on the social media and how they move the goalpost and the narratives depending on who does what. Haskins just he didn't play well at all. Now look, I can credit him for that. Should have had a completion to Mcleod over on the left side over there. It'd be interesting to see the other one that maybe Mcleod, whether or not a hand got in there or whether that was a flat out drop. I have not seen that yet, but I just think overall that ball, specifically the people will excuse or not excuse the interception there all they want, but the ball's got to come out quicker. period.
Yeah.
There, the decision has got to be made quicker to get the ball out there, and just the ball placement. There are people tweet me saying that Watt should have had that. Maybe he's got tentacles or something like that, but I just didn't see it there. I thought he was late and low, off target on a couple other throws on top of it there, and people saying, well, he just needs his mechanics worked with and his footwork worked with and all like that. Well, you've got a very reputable quarterbacks coach in there now, Mike Sullivan, right? And this is the stuff that should have been worked out over the course of the off-season practices and mandatory mini camps and on into preseason there. Did he deserve a chance to start that game and play a good chunk of it? Absolutely he did. And I think you and I have said this throughout the process here. Get a good look at this guy throughout the I thought they should have left him in there, to be honest with you, Alex. I was begging that after that, after the first possession of the third period there, just leave him in there. I wanted to see him try to work through this, even though the quality of the talent that he's working with obviously goes down, the further you get into these games there. I thought they should have left him in there. By the grace of God, he got back in there and got some garbage time, and I thought for what that was, it was okay there. But at no point during this whole entire process did the thought ever cross my mind that Haskins should be the number 2 over Mason Rudolph. End of story.
Yeah, I was a little more open to the idea, but I knew. Yeah, we always want to take a snapshot of these moments and battles. Haskins is playing well in this moment, so that means X, even though there's still 2 games or 2.5 weeks left of evaluation to go. And you really have to just kind of watch the whole summer in its totality and then step back and say, okay, what did you see? And so with quarterback more than any other position, and I can be guilty of this as well, but you ride this roller coaster of, he sucks, he's good, he sucks, he's good, and I'm using that a little broadly, but we ride this roller coaster of, can he be the guy or is he not the guy? And I think we get a little too reactionary to some of these things. Again, quarterback more than anything. That's true of any fan base across the NFL. And so from a just big picture standpoint, what did they do this summer? I thought Haskins made some strides. He looked better than maybe what I thought he would, but not enough to be the number 2 out of the gate.
What are your thoughts past? If things go like we think they're going to go or hope they're going to go, we have seen Haskins for the last time until next, on a football field until next August, right?
Right. Yeah.
So where are your thoughts on? Is he a guy that you are comfortable with at least putting in an original round tender and paying him a couple $1 million next summer?
Probably. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Ben and what that situation looks like. I'm still working under the assumption this will be Ben's final season. Not that I'm guaranteeing it, but that's just my assumption. I think that's the correct one to make right now. So I think where you're at right now in terms of the future is, you'll have Haskins and Rudolph and maybe someone else coming in to battle it out next summer.
Do you have any from what you've seen so far, is there anything that gives you great comfort in Haskins being the number 1 in 2022? That's a long way off. It's a lot of speculation.
Short answer is no. My standpoint is the heir to Ben, the actual face of the franchise, the next franchise quarterback on this roster, is playing college football right now.
But no, how shocked would you be in week 1 of the 2022 season if Haskins is the number 1? Is the starter to open up the week 1 game? Yeah,
I don't know. It's so far out. I'd be fairly surprised, but I know so much is going to change by then. I'm not even trying to feel like, not even assign a feeling to the idea.
I would be surprised, and be quite honest with you, my opinion, I don't think my opinion has changed on Haskins since the day he was signed.
Which I
just don't think he's got long-term potential there. Can he maybe be your number 2 for the next couple of years? We'll see. But I'm about right where I was the moment they signed him.
Yeah, I think being in Pittsburgh takes some of the pressure off. I think it's a better system. I think those things will be beneficial for him. But is that going to turn him into the franchise quarterback he was supposed to be that alone probably will not do it.
All right, what else did you see that wasn't awful on the offensive side of the ball?
Of stuff. Yeah, on the offensive side of the football,
Yeah.
I mean, it is a really short list of things. It's just the usual suspects. I guess Kendrick Green was decent, I think.
I thought he was better. I thought this might have been his best all-around game, and I mean, not by much if it was, but pass protection was a little bit better, I thought. So I kind of viewed him more in a positive light on offensive side of the ball. There wasn't a lot to get excited about.
Yeah, just good to bounce back after a couple of rougher games.
I thought it was Dan Moore Jr.'s worst game of the preseason.
Yeah, and it was weird because he played right tackle the week before, but I think he was just facing some better talent in that tough Carolina pass rush. In terms of the bright spots here, it's small, obviously, not a lot. Not much.
Dotson was a bright spot, I thought. I think throughout this process, he has been by far and away the Steelers' best offensive lineman. Period. Chikwama did not have a good game. Finney was meh. I thought in the limited time that Coward play, I thought he was okay. But at that point, you damn sure better the guys that you kind of going against later on in the game there. I'm trying to think of any wide receivers really. Nothing really comes to mind as far as McLeod.
Bussey got real quiet, didn't he? The Rico Bussey got real quiet.
Congratulations on if you hadn't Ray Mcleod as the team's leading yardage receiver, leader in yardage during the preseason.
Really, the whole preseason it was with McLeod.
Yeah, for the Steelers, but 5 or 6 of those catches came in the last 4 minutes, right? For 60, just goes to show you there. Offensively, not much really to speak of overall. In that final game. What about on the defensive side of football?
Yeah, I was just going to say for offense, they barely possessed the football to evaluate it. They just kept turning the ball over. Defensively, again, some bright spots. Jameer Jones, to me, Isaiah Buggs, I thought played really, really well. I thought he controlled the line of scrimmage consistently. Loudermilk continues to show a motor and some power. And so that sack he had was some great power that he played with there on that bull rush. Gilbert, I thought, had a decent game overall.
James Pierre, huge winner.
Yeah, what I wanted to see, and I wrote about this in the offseason in my One Step to Take series. I said the thing I want to see with Pierre is how does he play the run? Because I had no idea how to answer that question. I mean, this guy hadn't made a run tackle in a game since his last year at FAU. Is it FAU or FIU? I always forget where he went.
Atlantic.
Always Atlantic, FAU. Okay, I thought so. It was great to see him come downhill in both the short pass game and the run game and be physical with his run fits. I've seen some of that in training camp, and so I think that's showing a well-roundedness to his game.
I was glad to see that too, and there are different points I really would like to see the all-22 on this as well too, where I really see him trying to communicate with other players on the other younger players on the field. There, it really kind of demonstrative in his actions, where it looks like he's really trying to make sure there's some good communication going on there. Just a little thing like that. But. I thought that stuck out to me, at least on the TV tape side of things. So, look, if there's been one young defensive player that really from, week 17 of last year on has had a nice, slow, steady ascension, it has been him. And I think where we still sit right now is the fact that there's a lot of questions about what this nickel is going to look like. I think they're doing it wrong if it's not Pierre on the outside and Sutton in the slot there. Now, obviously, anything can happen. Somebody could get picked on. And heck, the week 1 matchup right now of Diggs, getting Diggs singled up maybe on a guy like James Pierre isn't ideal, right? But obviously, Beasley against somebody else other than Sutton in the slot isn't either. So.
And if you're going to play Pierre nickel, he's going to face some good matchups.
Sure.
That's just nature of playing on the outside in the NFL. And you're going to be nickel a lot. So, sorry about that. But, what are your other alternatives? Again, I think there are, to me, still questions about what nickel will look like, but there shouldn't be. It should be Sutton in the slot, Pierre at right corner. Those are your best guys. And just because you want that physical, Hilton light kind of guy does not make you better as a team.
I think the whole what we would do versus what the Steelers will do, there might be a gap there.
There is. I think there is.
I don't like it, but we'll assess it, whatever it is. But at least from what I've seen, it should be Pierre and then Sutton in the slot. Now, what this roster looks like here exactly 1 week from now will be interesting, but we'll see.
Yeah, and if Pierre's not nickel, and if they don't run a lot of dime defense this year, as Keith Butler kind of hinted at, then are you telling me that James Pierre is barely going to get to play this season unless it's an injury? Like, you're really going to let that talent sit on the sidelines? I mean, that just would be unacceptable to me.
Right. Especially with the with the rest of the whole composition of their roster, you would hope that you're going to find out as much. If he's got the ability to be out on that field, which I think he does, you need to learn as much as you can about James Pierre this year.
Mm-hmm. And he's earned it. His play is warranted. Now, how it'll look when the games start to count, I mean, he'll take his lumps. I'm sure he can be a really aggressive corner with his eyes, so I think there will be some ugly moments with him. And
how he bounces back from those, there are. I'm going right. There are going to be some ugly moments from him. But how does he have the Ike Taylor mentality? Can he put that stuff behind him and still continue to develop his game?
Right.
There is enough there, I think, to give us some hope that this guy can be a starter on the outside for the next 2 or 3 years or whatnot,
Mm-hmm. And the only way to find out is to play the guy.
Right. I mean, he has passed all the tests, in my opinion, up until this point. Now he's got to get some real tests against real wide receivers, and we'll see if that comes in week 1.
I'm with you. Any other thoughts here on the game, Dave? Again, not a whole lot to really note in terms of at least the positives, but just overall thoughts.
I was glad to see, and look, I don't know where people weigh in on living in their fears, and I think it's a good discussion to have here. I didn't want to see Highsmith and Ingram in this game. I thought we have seen enough of them. Luckily, those guys were held out of this contest. I think Schobert and Devin Bush were held out as well too. Overall, I think that's probably the right decision to make there. Overall, Mike Tomlin did what we expected. Throw the kids out there. Who wants to lean in? Who wants to shine? Who wants to shrink? They're just really you come away from this game wondering, man, was there anybody that shined that had a shot, a legitimate shot to make the roster? And really, the answer was no. It was a stink. It was one of those games that, oh man, this game's dragging. And I love.
Yeah, we're saying that, and that really.
I know it. Look, I love all preseason games. I love the fourth quarters usually of most all preseason games. I was thinking, man, will this game ever get over here? And having listened to Steve Smith on that side of things made it even worse there. But kind of transitioning into that, the Baltimore Ravens decided to play a starter in J.K. Dobbins early in their preseason game and got him injured and out for the season there. And it's the old damned if you do, damned if you don't, man. I get people their side of the fan base getting mad and all like that, but where do you draw the line at in this, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it's an impossible situation. As you mentioned, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I'm not, I'm not upset at Harbaugh, but, I'm not a Ravens fan. So I'm not in the emotional aspect of it. I understand playing a young guy and getting him ready and getting starters ready and all that stuff. And I kind of subscribe to that theory of, you want to play your starters here a little bit to get them ready because they haven't played football in a game in 8 months. So, I'm not too mad at the idea of it, but it's just football. Injuries happen, and they'll be okay. Their rushing attack's always strong. I mean, they have a really good scheme. So, I mean, it's a blow, obviously. Dobbins is a super talented back, but their run scheme is built to overcome the loss of one guy.
Right. I can only imagine the criticism that Harbaugh's getting, but, look, I called for the Steelers not to play Highsmith and Ingram. But it's from the sheer fact that we have seen them play, and they play damn good.
Right.
What do you have to gain, from that aspect of it? Now, with Dobbins, I would expect a team to get their starting running back out there for at least 8 carry, whatever you consider a minimal amount of touches or whatnot there. But and I know people don't like people probably say it's the Ravens. Who cares? But I think it's just an overall, topic that's worth discussing, especially on the flip side of a team losing their starting running back there because they did play in the preseason finale. Mm-hmm. But it's never been something that gets me hugely upset there. But I can imagine the criticism Mike Tomlin would have gotten had Najee played in this, had suffered the same injury, in brief first quarter action.
Yeah. Or at any point in this preseason, had he played at all and gotten hurt, then the Boo Birds would have been out. And Tomlin played Harris quite a bit. Now, he obviously did not play him in the finale, but played him quite a bit when he did play him. And so that was more than what I thought Harris was going to get.
Okay, what else do we have on the list to talk about? Anything?
I got a lot of questions today. Probably have a reader email about it, I'm guessing, if it came in here late. A lot of people asking about Sean Davis, released by the Colts today. I'm not sure why everyone wants to bring back Sean Davis. Like, I get it, because we've been talking so much about adding a free safety and all that, but, man, this is the third time's a charm with Sean Davis. I doubt it. So I think this team can do better than him.
I think they can do better. Now, if you get midway into the season and stuff goes sideways, and at that point, then we're talking about other things, I think. I understand why they did it at the same time last year, because also, too, he signed a much more lucrative contract than what the Steelers were going to be willing to pay him last year. And obviously that didn't work out with Washington. He came back and accepted the minimum. But he pretty much signed for the minimum with the Colts this time around. So the fact that they couldn't – I don't think any of his contract, even though there were some roster bonuses and all like that involved, I don't think any of it was guaranteed there. So I think at this point, the Steelers could have him for the same price they could have had him several months ago, and they didn't go that route, or Davis chose not to go that route. I don't see what you gain. It's not like this guy is a huge help on special teams overall. Not a very good tackler. That's been the MO on him since day one too. Always around the pile, but not in. You can't rely on him to make the tackle there. I'm not saying it can't happen. I just think there are going to be better alternatives out there than one Sean Davis.
Yeah, they barely even played the guy last year when they had chances to do so, besides the finale against Cleveland. So, yeah, I think you just move on and you find someone else, and I'm good with that.
Right.
I think that's probably about it, Dave. You want to get to some reader emails, speaking of those, and close out today's show?
All right, let's see what we have here in the email machine. And get it sorted here real quick here. Sean Davis reunion part 2. You called that one. Dominic Pursuta. Hey, guys. Colts released Sean Davis today. We brought him back last year as a safety depth with Norwood being smaller and inexperienced and sure to make it to the practice squad. Could Davis be the veteran safety depth the Steelers are looking for again this year? If so, any chance he can play in the nickel spot? I doubt it, since they never used him there before. He's a bigger guy, which seems. Dominic, we just hit on that. Could it happen? Sure, I suppose. I don't think it should happen.
Yeah, I don't think it should happen, nor do I think will it happen. Yeah, I'm not in favor of the idea.
I'm with you on that, Alex. L&M writes in on Kendrick Green. I'm excited for Kendrick Green and understand could be some rookie bumps, but let's say he's just okay, and next year they have a chance at a top center. Could Green be a better guard than center, or is center his best position? That's one of those things that some of the same flaws will still be there with him at guard. The only difference is he'll have a fraction of a second time to react to some of those stuff. Getting bull rushed at center is still going to get him bull rushed at guard. If you can't drop the anchor, you can't drop the anchor. Is it plausible that the Steelers might not like what they see with him at center and say, well, we'll draft another center and we'll see how it works out at guard? I suppose, but boy, that's not the way you're rooting for this thing to go, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. We had a question like this a couple of podcasts ago, right? I think a very similar topic. Generally speaking, if you're a smaller guy and you start moving out, it doesn't get a whole lot easier for you when you're going against maybe bigger people and stuff like that. So, I mean, I get the guard's more natural to him, and so there's more of an adjustment with him coming to center. But if we're talking about that, we're thinking about that, then this thing's probably not going too well.
Yeah, can you put him on a rack or something? Is that still allowed? Is that is it been proven possible to actually stretch a guy?
Yeah, that reference kind of goes over my head. That sounds like some medieval stuff.
It is. It is medieval stuff.
Okay.
Can that work? Can you get another couple inches of him?
If so, I want to sign up for one because I can be a little bit taller. That'd be nice.
I just think you're going to run into the same stuff that, weaknesses and all like that. To me, I'm not saying, obviously you got a third round draft pick on him. You hope he's going to hang around for at least a couple of years here, but it sure would be a disappointment at this point, I think, if he's not your starting center for a couple of years here.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with you there.
Let's see here. Richard Jameson writes in on Dan Moore. Please help me understand Dan Moore Jr. Steelers seem to regard him more highly than I expected. How do you evaluate his strengths and weaknesses, and what areas must he play to improve to become a starter? What is the earliest that he might become a starter? One of the most positive things that stuck out on his tape, on his college tape, was his hand usage to me. I think he's surprised me a little bit more than that going out through the preseason. In fact, if there's like one or two offensive guys that I'd say really surprised me throughout the preseason, it would be him. However, we got to keep in mind that the competition that he's faced throughout this thing as well too. Is it marginal, the differences between him and Chukwuma Okorafor at left tackle at this point? Okay, I can maybe have my arm twisted into that. That said, I think that you would still see Chukwuma start at least at left tackle, and if the thing goes sideways on him the way it did with Mike Adams back in, was it 13? What year was it, Mike?
I don't remember.
Started the first 4 games and just it didn't work. And then they made the change, I think, to Beacham that year. I think you have to be open to pulling the plug on Chukwuma Okorafor at left tackle quick. I just am not convinced that it'll be a week 1 plug pull.
Yeah, that's my subject of the terrible take today. I basically lay out that Okorafor needs to be better in the fall than he was this summer. I think he gets the first month of the season, and you evaluate that after a month. That's tough matchups against Buffalo week 1, against Denver in that first month of the season, and you kind of go from there. Moore's going to have to deal better with speed rushes and just consistency in terms of sealing the edge. He's a good athlete, just about playing with good technique overall, and then just kind of becoming a little more comfortable at right tackle should he have to play there for whatever reason if there's an injury. So that's the things with him. But I'll give a core for a month and go from there.
All right. I think David has another question in here. David and Alex, I'm beginning to wonder if Joe Schobert trade is as much about the quarterback room as the inside linebacker coverage issue. If you ask me, the guy most resembling Mike Hilton currently is the new guy wearing the green dot. Boy, let's hope that we don't have to see Joe Schobert cover a lot of wide receivers throughout this thing.
Yeah, I don't really understand that comparison. Schobert is like Mike Hilton.
He's saying he's beginning to wonder if Joe Schobert trade is as much about the cornerback room as the inside linebacker coverage issue.
Yeah, no, I got that.
If
I
you ask me, the guy most resembling Mike Hilton currently is the new guy wearing the green dot. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's. I guess the idea is let's get Schobert in there, and we'll run a lot of. We won't run much dime this year, so we won't have to worry about the 6DB and have Schobert be the him and Bush out there on the field almost 100% of the time. But in terms of the way that Schobert will be used versus the way that Hilton was used in this defense, rotating with Minka, blitzing off the edge, obviously covering slot receivers, I can't understand that one.
Mike Hilton might be able to run from Mayer here in another 8 weeks.
Yeah. He thinks Jesse Bates is the best safety in football, though, after calling Minka the best safety. So that still hurts me a little bit.
What's that?
Hilton called Jesse Bates the best safety in football after he called Minka the best safety. I'm just There'll be some smear campaigns when Hilton runs.
Jonathan Barton writes in, love the podcast and work both of you do. I've been listening for years and continue to get you continue to get better each year. Love everything from draft prep to the daily emails from you guys. I have faith in Colbert making a few more moves, vet, lineman, and safety for depth. What do you think about the chances if we sign a veteran center and Kendrick Green moves to guard position? Is he better at guard than center? What number are the Steelers in waiver priority list? Oh Lord,
they just 24 where they drafted last year. The order stays the same.
I'm trying to remember what the rule is on that. I think it
doesn't change until the first month of the season or something. So they should be 24th in the waiver order. Kendrick Green's gonna be the week 1 starting center. That's what I'm focused on. It's just Kendrick Green at center, not about guard. I mean, they could obviously bring in a vet to back up maybe, but let's focus on Kendrick Green as a Steelers starting center because that's where he's going to be playing week 1 against Buffalo.
Right, and even at this, we talked about it, or I've talked about it quite a bit. Even if this team does add a veteran center / guard, we're not going to be throwing any parades for this guy. I don't think. I mean, this is going to be very Cody Wallace type material here, probably. I just think you maybe need a guy that can give you a little bit more than maybe what J.C. Austin. I'm not in no way thinking that this is a guy that's that you're going to go, who should we start in week 1? Kendrick Green's your guy. You got to find out what this kid's all about, and he's going to take his lumps and all like that. And if he stays healthy, he's probably going to be your center for hopefully for his entire rookie season there. But you are going to learn quite a bit about this kid as the season goes on, and it's going to look ugly at times, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I'm with you. You need to learn a lot. He's going to have to make his mistakes. Again, this is still an underclassman who's learning how to play center and doing it against the best players in the world. And so there are going to be some negativity that comes along with that.
Absolutely. Where are you on this offensive line as where we were 4 weeks ago?
I feel about the same, maybe a bit better. But I think it's going to be an up and down unit, and how they come together is going to be important. And I think they'll be better run blocking, worse pass blocking team overall. But I think you'll get some heavy inconsistency with this unit.
If there's been any reason to be a little bit more optimistic than we were 4 weeks ago, where is it? Because I'm not. Other than the fact of accepting the fact that there'll be a better run blocking unit, because how can they not be?
Right. I mean, obviously, I've been encouraged by Dan Moore. Not that he's going to play. Maybe he won't play right away. Maybe Trey Turner. Still have question marks about him, but I can definitely see where you'll get some good moments with him. Yeah. I mean, there's still a ton of question marks here. So I hear what you're saying.
All right. What are your thoughts about? I think Dr. Mel wants to put in a 53-man roster prediction. I think that'd be fine. What, don't you? If she gets it over here.
Absolutely. By the way, a quick point as well. NFL Top 100, TJ Watt ranked 9th. I think that's a respectable rating. I just want to see him in the top 10, so I'm good with that. And Ben was 110 out of the top 100. They did the next of, and Ben was 110 on that list. I was a little surprised by that.
Stephon Tuitt was the one that got really screwed and all that. Yeah. If you want to talk about slights and all like that, Stephon Tuitt should have been in the top 100. Now, you could have put him at 100 for all I care. I think he deserved to be ranked higher than that, but I don't see how you can leave him out of the top 100 with the season that he had. I mean, you talk about a guy that, I mean, he was awesome last season, and you hope that it's going to be interesting to see what happens these next couple. Look, I think today and tomorrow are big days for Stephon Tuitt, right? A guy that we've talked about saying, what happens if he can't get back on the practice field on like this Monday or Tuesday?
Right. Yeah. I don't know if we'll find that out. I assume we will, because if Tua does practice, there'll be a reporter that gets that question in there in some form or fashion. So. Right. We'll see. But yeah, clock is ticking for Stephon Tuitt.
The clock's also ticking on TJ Watt. They will get this done. It's just a matter of when. I think we kind of wanted it maybe to happen during this podcast. It hasn't. It's still got a couple of weeks here. So, this thing could still run up to the 11th hour as far as we know here. We do, once again, think that this team's going to do something. Any names you can see this team going after, Alex?
In terms of guys that get cut?
Either cut or trade or something, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom Mead has done some really good research over the summer with possible names. I mean, the guys that I've mentioned quite a bit, MJ Stewart from Cleveland, who seems to be very much on the bubble, could easily be cut if the Steelers want that physical slot corner with some pedigree and youth. He's 25 years old, former second-round pick out of North Carolina. I think MJ Stewart's as good of a fit as you're going to find in terms of, realistic cut options.
Right. We do think somebody's going to be, and I think Kevin Colbert's. We're going to have a 6th or 7th round draft pick here in the possession here in a couple, in a matter of a couple of weeks as well too. It's just what he does.
Who's the most likely guy to get traded that will net? Because I even had trouble finding a guy that could net a 6th round pick. Because I don't know if just Jordan Berry gets you a 6.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I think they will try to trade somebody for something, but it just
I don't know. Could you deal Bugs for a 6? Maybe.
I think it's possible. I had him as a 7th in my hypothetical, but I think that's a possibility.
Right. So it's going to look different here. I mean, I'm still convinced that at least one, maybe two guys that are not currently under contract with this team end up on the week 1, 55, I guess it would be.
Right. One other note here from my front office housekeeping standpoint, Steelers have hired Will Britt to be a football analyst. Wrote that up this morning for Steelers Depot. He will replace Jay Whitmire, who left to go to the Jets. Will Britt is a fresh face, just graduated from, Center College? I don't know how to pronounce it, but he'll be the
new coffee boy.
the new coffee boy for Kevin Colbert.
Cutting up tape. Probably having cutting up tape and getting coffee and donuts or whatnot.
You so much as bring a calculator into this room, Will. You're out of here. That's how the conversation goes.
Slide rules only. All right. I think we beat this up pretty good here. We'll be back on Wednesday and at the very least look at what the initial 53-man roster looks like, right? And who knows if anything is taking place from there. Something else to look forward to, obviously this week as well, too. You got to set a 16-man, or you would think they're going to set a 16-man practice squad right away here. And what's going to happen with Antoine Brooks Jr.? You're going to have an injury settlement with him these next couple of days here. That needs to take place. If it's going to happen. The Steelers, believe it or not, have 3 guys on IR right now, and that's costing you almost $1.5 million in cap space. That's not currently showing up on the NFL because none of that kicks over until the until the final 53 cut down date's set and all like that, and teams got to be cap compliant and all. So that's something to think about there. But I have a feeling we are going to have plenty to talk about on Wednesday, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Until then, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You're doing AMA too, right?
Yes, today at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, a AMA over on Steelers Reddit. So come out and hang out with us.
All right. Let's see. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. We don't do a live stream tonight. That was last week, right?
Yeah, next week we'll do the live stream.
Okay. Let's see. Follow the Terrible Podcast at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button upper right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button upper right navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site as well, too. So until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.